Hey, I did it. Cool. So these are the groups. Group A, QQ, Winterlow, Droopy Manus, Cheshire Saxophone, Harsmars, Helwino, and Dova. Obviously, QQ is probably my pick. Just want to make sure. Yeah, we could see the right thing here. Cool. Yeah, I'm thinking QQ, probably Group A. I'm disappointed there was actually a prediction event that I was too slow to sign up for. But you never know. Honestly, Tooth and Tail is just one of these games where I feel like any season somebody could show up and kind of be the underdog, the dark horse, and come through and win. So, it's not the most difficult game to pick up and play. Obviously, mastering it, there is a testament to that. Otherwise, players like Sasha or Heirloom, Melvin Furrow wouldn't be as consistent. Yeah, I mean, QQ I think is the obvious #1 pick for Group A. My second pick would maybe be Winterload, but again, it just depends. I mean, Cheshire also has been playing for a long time. Some of these other names I'm not as familiar with, so maybe newer players, I can't weigh in as much on them, but yeah, again, you never know who might be able to sneak through, or who's been practicing a lot, or who's understanding the meta game and going to sneak through onto the next part of the tournament. Which, by the way, we are the top 2 players from every group is going to advance into a round of 16, and then from there, it's going to be standard best of 5 single elimination, and then semifinals become best of 7, I believe, either semis or quarter, and then finals best of 9. So, actually, I think it's a really great way to do it. We had a lot of people sign up for the event, which is nice, and then you never know if some people kind of ghost or just don't show up to play their games in time, that kind of stuff. So in this sort of format, it doesn't really matter, right? Like if somebody from your group just kind of doesn't participate, obviously it's not as fun. Like we all want to play more games of Tooth and Tail, but it's not the end of the world. We can still, the people who are trying and paying attention and participating are the ones who are going to advance. So I think that's going to be my Group A predictions, QQ and Winterload. Group B, I am looking at bring back OG Moles, bring back DJ Soak. What's up, Oscar? Good to see you. Yeah, it's so cool seeing some of you all that have been here forever still popping in. I would be surprised if half the people in the Tooth and Tail scene knew who DJ Soak is anymore. Those were the glory days, 2017, 2018. DJ Soak, first chip from space. It'd be really fun to see some of them show back up. I mean, Meek's a pretty old name too, and has popped back in this season after being inactive for a little bit. So you never know. People pop in and out. Looking at Group B, we've got Super ZH, Airlu, Nightslayer, NounVerber, Randolph, Spacenut, and Kibo. A pretty stacked group. I mean, I think Airlu is probably obviously the favorite. Somebody who pretty consistently gets to championship finals, also wins championship finals pretty regularly. So I think that's my choice for #1. My choice for #2 is a little bit harder for this group, I think. Kipo is a strong player. Nightslayer is potentially pretty strong. NounVerber, we're actually going to go into a NounVerber match here in a moment. We're going to see Spacenut and NounVerber play. But I would say for that second slot, I'm leaning towards Kipo or Nightslayer for sure. But again, you never know. There could be some upsets. So Group C, we've got B-Man, 12872 in bold. Shavin Baby, Exnor, Meek, Tuba, River, and Floor. Definitely gonna have to go with Meek here. I think Meek has really taken this season very seriously. Practicing a lot, casting a lot of games, even making guides. Definitely check out his content if you haven't already. Very prolific this season, which we really, really appreciate. It definitely helps getting everything casted. Floor is probably my second in Group C. Either Floor or Exnor would be my guesses. I'm not super familiar with some of these other players, which is great. I mean, I love to see that. I love to see a lot of new folks come in. It can be a little bit difficult sometimes because there are a few folks that are really, really strong and consistent. So obviously it's not as fun to play against folks like that when you're still learning the game, but I think there's enough newbies floating around nowadays where it kind of evens out, so it can be pretty fun. Okay, Group D. Milk and Spookies, Atomy, Lego Man, Anorex, Datscar, Epicosity, Urbane, Olive. Alright. Lego Man has definitely got to be my pick for Group D. And then probably followed by Urbane Olive. Epicosity, Datscar, also very strong players. That's a tough group. I could see the number 2 going a lot of different directions, but I do think Lego Man is probably the shoe-in for Group D there. So Group E, we've got this guy, Deep Sea, Verm, Panoramic, Jordy, and Jenkum Dealer. I've definitely got to go Deep Sea in this guy. I think that's not going to be a surprise to anybody. They're both very consistent players. Sasha has got to the grand finals a couple times now of these sorts of events, and is very hungry to get that championship win. So I would be very surprised to see a round of 16 without this guy Deep Sea in it. And finally, the last group is Delphius, that's me, Speed Racer, Degrazian, Evil Murloc, Hyalix, and the General AI. I do think it will be me and Evil Murloc getting out of this group, will be my prediction there. If I play well enough. I actually have not gotten out of group stages in a while, so it would be nice to break through. I feel pretty confident. I got some more. I haven't got to play very much. I travel like so much for work nowadays. It can be difficult to sit down and commit to some games, but yeah. I think if I can get some practice in, I did practice against Kipo a couple weeks ago and got kind of my sea legs back underneath me. Found a couple decks that I like and I think are strong. So I at least got a little bit of a warm up in me. So we'll see. I'd be very excited to make it to the round of 16, and I think I can. But you never know. I mean, Hyalix, the General, Degrazian, these are all people that have been here for a while. And also, one thing I like to note is I do recognize some of these names here that started playing on like the last events. So it's really cool to see them coming back for more and continuing to be part of the community. So yeah, let's take it back to the main screen here. And I think without any further ado, we are ready to hop into some casting. Very excited to be here and be casting again with everybody. So looking forward to these matches here. We got some good ones lined up. I've got 4 sets of replays to start with. These are best of 3, so could only be 2, maybe 3 games each. I normally am good to cast like 12 matches or so before I get a little burnt out. So let's see how that goes, and let us hop into the first match. I'll do a little YouTube cut here, and then we'll get started. Alright, we are hopping into Spacenut vs NounVerber, game number 1. Let's get into it. Up in the north, we have NounVerber playing as a quartermaster, and in the left, Spacenut as a Belafide. And we are hopping into this match. This is a Group B match. So, let's see what the decks decided to look like this game. Mine's from both players, very interesting. We're also sharing units in Squirrel and Falcon. Something to keep in mind there. I mean, pretty consistent units, right? I mean, Falcon is one of the best scaling late game units, and Squirrel's obviously kind of your bread and butter tier 1. So, pretty straightforward map. Honestly, a pretty fair one for a first game. Both players can have easy access to a second and a third base. A little bit of an annoying cabin right here, but that could actually be a nice boon for Spacenut. If I spawn into a situation like this, I might consider trying to force a 1-base tier 1 game, just because I know I can grab that cabin, and, you know, 9 farms versus 8 farms is about a 12% advantage on your opponent, and can sometimes be all it takes to have that few extra squirrels and push them over the edge. Alright, so nothing crazy so far, just 8 farm double open from both players. Now is a good time to see how they want to advance. I like these, like, forward mines. They don't cost you a lot. They give you a little bit of scouting information, so Spacenut checking over for an expansion. Nothing comes up just yet. And thinking about popping down to tier 2 is Spacenut. Maybe some skunks. Let's see what he decides to go for. Skunk it is. Meanwhile, second base taken from NounVerber. So Eco versus Tech is the difference so far. And let's see how much NounVerber wants to commit. This is actually 2 farms on this mill, so NounVerber's invested 180 food into units that are not, or I'm sorry, to buildings that are not army units at the moment. So Spacenut is going to have a little bit of a tempo advantage here if they decide to push out. We've got to wait for those skunks, of course. This is a nice little ridge here, too, to advance and attack this, which Spacenut needs to do. I'd like to see just throwing down their own mill on the way out, and then maybe putting on a little bit of pressure. But Spacenut deciding to play it safe and gonna go ahead and just probably farm up and try to match those 2 extra farms from their opponent. Attacking is very difficult in Tooth and Tail. Actually, just gonna go ahead and go for a Badger. Wow. Let's see if Now gets the scout. If he does, that's huge. Oh no! Actually, barely doesn't get it. Could have got the scout if they went all the way in. Super unfortunate. That's gotta feel bad, man. So this is very good for Spacenut. The Badger is on the way, and if NounVerber is gonna sit back and just let both players kind of macro up here, this is not looking good for them. Now, a Badger is also not the end of the world. I've taken down Badgers before with like 4 Falcons and some good micros, so even if you're not prepared for it, you can stop it. But it just depends on the situation, the army comp, and Spacenut's got to be feeling happy right now. He snuck that tier 3 out. NounVerber never found out. The wolf is coming down now, but let's see how much of a timing this Badger is going to force from Spacenut. Actually, perfect food management there from Spacenut. Managed to get that Badger out right when they needed to, right when it was ready. 180 food was there to pay for it, and great snipe there from NounVerber. I love this kind of playstyle. I love just having like 6 lizards to run around and try to harass with. I mean, worst case scenario, you lose the lizards. Yeah, that kind of stinks a bit, but you didn't lose a big enough piece of your army to be in really hot water, right? And now if you go up to 9, 12, 15 lizards, then that could be counter attack kind of territory if you lose all those. But just losing a handful of lizards, normally not enough to tip the scales. All right, NounVerber maybe gonna see the Badger now that it's out and about. Not gonna be happy about that. So Spacenut doesn't have the pigeons yet. That doesn't mean that they can't move out. I think that they should move out because NounVerber is starting to get up the Falcons, starting to get up the Wolf, and this army comp is perfectly fine to try to combat this. So if Spacenut sits around, this is definitely in the favor of NounVerber. Should have probably attacked immediately, especially because Spacenut knew NounVerber had no idea about the Badger on the way. So again, it can be scary to attack, and sometimes you'll scratch your head on engagements. I found that Tooth and Tail is an incredibly punishing game when it comes to engagements. You know, there can be army comps on paper or values, and it looks even, and then one side just absolutely gets obliterated. And it's all from concave, convex. It's a lot of it is like squirrels and skunks and units like that need to have tiles. They need to be standing on a tile in order to shoot. So if they're kind of tripping over one another, not finding tiles fast enough, that can change the DPS. Things like hitting a grist mill. I mean, there's a million variables. So both teams are going to come out into the open here and threaten an engagement. I'm starting to become a fan of NounVerber's army comp over time here. I do think that Cam Falcon Wolf in the late game probably outscales Badger. If the Falcons have enough DPS to just burst the Badger down immediately is really what you're looking for. NounVerber also on a third base, but not full saturation on either. So again, Spaceless just being very cautious here, a little bit, timid to hard engage. And NounVerber can easily take advantage of that with these boosted units from the Wolf, able to come in and pick a couple stragglers off. You know, you rinse and repeat that over and over, and all of a sudden you have an enormous army advantage. So Spacenut needs to be careful. I mean, he's out here, you know, fielding his army, but not committing to an attack. I think it's better to just be kind of hanging out back at base if you're not going to fully commit. And I think for Spacenut, he might want to start thinking about, you know, Badger number 2, Badger number 3 to keep up with the raw DPS from the Cam, Falcon, Wolf. And you can already see Wolf number 2 on the way for NounVerber. So this might be 2 ships passing in the night, but Spacenut knows that this attack is coming because of mines. However, NounVerber is able to get in there, knock out that mill. Not a lot of damage really done there. Spacenut cannot let the second base just get attacked, though. He's gonna counterattack and go for the base race. Needs to be very decisive here. NounVerber takes out the second base, so it's pretty much already won the war. There's no way that Spacenut could field another army after this. Just needs to go ahead and try to knock down NounVerber's base in time, and that is gonna do it. NounVerber is able to take out those mills more quickly than Spacenut there, so I feel like Spacenut did have a good opportunity in that game to attack, but just didn't kind of feel it out in time and take advantage of when he had the tier 3 and NounVerber did not. All right, let's hop into game number 2. Hey, how you doing, Tataka? Good to see you. Good to see Olive, Grouch. Got a lot of people in chat. Always a pleasure. All right, in the top left we've got Spacenut, and in the bottom right, NounVerber. This time with the Raccoon and Artillery, Lizard, Frog, kind of flexing a little bit. You know, on the choices, I think. You know, Toad and Artie are not very common these days, but that doesn't mean that they're bad. There's always this idea in any competitive game of a meta, and I think Magic the Gathering is the best example of this, where just because something's the meta doesn't always mean it's objectively the best or the right thing. And the reason Magic's a good example of that is because all the time new decks will be found in like old formats and stuff, and people just never thought about this or decided to try it out. So just something to always keep in mind. I mean, Tooth and Tail obviously is a lot simpler as far as what, you know, kind of selections you can make, but just because people aren't using Artillery doesn't mean you can't use Artillery and win games. And sometimes these strategies, you know, expect the unexpected. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, right? Like, nobody's gonna expect Toad, so all of a sudden this big Toad push comes out and just absolutely annihilates your whole base and your Warrens. Could definitely happen. So a little bit of pre-8 farm shenanigans here, but it looks like a no harm, no foul situation unless I've missed something. Spacenut looked like they were able to read it in time, got some mines up, and is going to be able to defend no problem. There is not... Okay, that rock there is blocking it. I'm always interested to look at the map and see what kind of backdoor entrances and things like that exist. Nice defense there from Spacenut. Trades 2 mines for, what, 4 lizards, even keeps that pig alive. And good little pocket base here for NounVerber. This is a super awkward third base, kind of for both players. I don't know. I don't think that's ever going to be taken. NounVerber can very clearly expand over to the east. Unless NounVerber just wants this base to try to be cheeky. Could you imagine, like, sneaking an Artillery right here or something? Like, that's what I love to see when people have that kind of unit and it's very unexpected. So, Spacenut just opening with some skunks again. Good mine defenses here, really well positioned to prevent these lizard harasses. Kind of surprised the squirrels are coming out of the safety of the pig lines and the mines here. Yeah, pulls them back in. So these lizards are not going to get anything done. So what else does NounVerber have? I mean, NounVerber is playing a little bit of a weird game here with their Raccoon and Artillery. So, I mean, I guess they could get a Wolf out and then, like, really go up on Raccoons. That can be a lot of damage. They're pretty robust unit, the Raccoon. You know, kind of a mid-range unit, the way I think about it. You know, kind of tough, kind of deals some damage. Not the best at, like, any role, but kind of fills a few different roles. So, Spacenut has a nice pocket base as well, and should probably just leverage that for a little bit. NounVerber has a lot more of a mobile army here, a little bit more of a punchy army as well. I'm really curious to see where NounVerber goes from here, though. Honestly, I wouldn't hate to watch him just throw down more Lizard Toad and just rock that. I mean, Lizard Toad's a pretty decent comp against Squirrel Skunk. Gonna get some Pigeons in the mix, probably against the Gas, but not really worried about Gas or healing for tier 1 though, or at least shouldn't be. So Spacenut is going pretty hard on some farms here. Great scout there from Spacenut. Is able to see exactly what is going on. So, gotta let this one cook for a minute. Do people still go Squizzard? Oscar asks. Yeah, I think Squirrel Lizard's pretty stock standard still. There's still kind of the metagame, Oscar, of like kind of have 2 tier 1 for the most part. That's not always true, but it's normally like Squirrel Lizard, Squirrel Mole. You can do what the Spacenut's doing and try to get away with just one. Mole's got a little bit nerfed, so they're not kind of, yeah, the auto include they used to be. Look at this, love to see it. And Spacenut does not see it. The question is that in range? I think that is in range. You gotta, it's in range, but it's not in vision, right? So you need some scouting units. Maybe that's what the Pigeons are for. So now NounVerber is getting his artillery. He's getting into the wolf. The plans are coming together here. Not full 2 base saturation from either side. Let's see what Spacenut's up to. A lot of tier 2. The 4 skunks really can help out a lot against the lizards. That's just so much HP to try to chew through. It's so many mines as well. Oh man, oh dude, I want to see it so bad. Just go, NounVerber, go! Alright, the artillery is up, but again, I think it is in range, but it's not in vision. So NounVerber has to go over there and kind of babysit it. But the thing is, he's got to get in the base like this. So even getting the commander in like that is going to be a little tough. He's deciding to go through the chute here. Nope, turning around. This is not looking that great for NounVerber. He is going to bait him into this artillery though. Which Spacenut is going to be like, are you serious? I mean, luckily for Spacenut, he's got a lot of Falcons. So if he can push NounVerber away from this artillery, he can go just kind of, wreck that artillery pretty fast with his flying units pretty safely. And he's be careful. I don't know about this for NounVerber. I think he's overextending. A lot of these Falcons still in the air here. Spacenut, I wish you were a little bit more aggressive here. I think he could have chased him down. He's going to send his whole army over here. He only needs his Falcons. I think this is a bit of a mistake. He gets caught between a rock and a hard place. The artillery is going to shell everything down, but I still think the Falcons are just way too much damage in the air. Go, 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 Spacenut. Chase him down. No, he's going to let the wolf get away. He's got to deal with this artillery. He just needs to move his Falcons. He keeps taking his whole army over here. Just needs the Falcons. He's also got to go the other way around. So there you go. Is he going to make it? Yeah, I think he'll get close enough. Nicely done. This is looking very great for Spacenut. Now, NounVerber's not down and out yet. He's got a very healthy economy behind all of this. He did keep the wolf alive, which was huge. I think Spacenut could have chased a little bit harder and got some more damage there. But is playing it safe for now. And it is getting such a great air army here. And is trying to establish a third base, which I think is pretty difficult for Spacenut. Trying to bait everybody back into the minefield, which works pretty well. He needs to get in there. How many Falcons left? Only 2. I didn't check if NounVerber was focus firing these Falcons, but he might have been. And now that the Raccoons are getting up in pretty high numbers, the Raccoons should be able to target down those Falcons fairly easily. Yeah, Spacenut needs to move these mines out front. I don't know, man. I think NounVerber is going to end up with a better army comp a little bit. Spacenut fumbled some of the attacks earlier, I think. I think he could have handled the artillery a little smoother. I think he could have punished NounVerber's mistakes there a little bit harder, chasing down the army. But let's see. 6 more Falcons in the air here. Just got to let that one go. Pull back for now. Third base is getting established from Spacenut, which is what he needs. The juice-up units are going to come in again, and man, that wolf buff is just so strong. Manages to take out a lot of Spacenut's army. 7 tier 2 still left here. And according to the army value graph, Spacenut does still have quite a formidable army. He needs to get these mines out a little bit further, I think. What the heck is that, Raccoons? Asked Oscar. Yeah, so there's 2 new units in the game based on some mods that we play, Raccoon and Crow. We actually banned Crow from this season of Championship because I guess the community just feels like it's not properly balanced at the moment. But the Raccoon is a new Tier 2 unit. If you're old school, you will not be familiar with that one. Shoots up, shoots down, and when it's out of your territory, it gains a little bit of food for you, which is kind of cool, like it's foraging. Kind of a bruiser unit, good kind of midline, you know, can take some punches, can deal some punches, does a lot of DPS with that buff, and Spacenut losing his commander there, I think is going to be all she wrote. NounVerber pounces on, and with these buffed up Raccoons, let's see how far he can get. Hits some mines and goes back. Spacenut is absolutely crazy with the mines this game. But NounVerber is being a bit more aggressive here. Spacenut trying to rally another army out in the field. I just don't think he's going to have it. You know, my advice to Spacenut would be, I think Spacenut had some really good instincts. I think they had some smart builds, but just needs to be a little bit more intuitive in army movements would be my advice for the rest of their games. You know, it can be tough, but especially when people are retreating, I mean, you got to know when to pounce. I think there was a couple spots this game that Spacenut could have abused NounVerber a little bit more. And didn't kind of capitalize on some of the overcommitments that NounVerber made. And now NounVerber is just putting together a better army in the game. I mean, the wolf buff is just so strong. There's no Badger here from Spacenut, or not enough units, not a critical mass or anything like that. So, going to have to tap out here. GG, and nicely done from NounVerber. Gonna win that series 2-0.